I'm going to blow your mind with the truth about Jesus.
All right, let's see it.
Do you know why Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me," when he was dying on the cross?
Well, the data don't support the conclusion that these words were actually spoken by the historical Jesus on the cross, but they were put into the mouth of Jesus in the Gospel of Mark and the Gospel of Matthew, and this was to further the rhetorical goals of both of these authors to draw connections between Jesus' ministry and the Hebrew Bible, to make the ministry more significant to Jewish people and to represent Jesus as a fulfillment of the prophecies of the Hebrew Bible.
Is a Psalm of David written 1,000 years before Jesus.
Probably closer to around 500 years before Jesus.
The Jewish people would sing at gatherings. They all knew the words to this song. And think about it, why does Jesus quote this psalm?
Well, this is a specific type of lament psalm called a God complaint, and that is where the psalmist begins by addressing God on very intimate terms and then immediately goes into asking rhetorical questions, usually beginning with the Hebrew word lama or the Hebrew words ad matai, which mean why or how long, and then ask these rhetorical questions about why God is allowing them to suffer. Then there's usually a section where there's some kind of praise, reminding of past deeds, and then it moves on to describing the lamentable situation of the present, and then moves on to petitioning God to change it and fix it, and frequently ends with praise. There are numerous lament psalms throughout the book of Psalms, and there are numerous God complaints throughout the book of Psalms.
It literally prophesies a form of execution that didn't even exist when it was written.
No, it doesn't.
When you hear the words of this prophecy, you are lying to yourself if you don't think that this describes Jesus on the cross perfectly.
Or maybe the authors of Mark and Matthew describe Jesus' death on the cross perfectly so as to resonate with this psalm.
My God, why have you forsaken me? I'm despised by the people. All who see me sneer at me. They wag their head. They say, commit yourself to the Lord. You know, the covenant name for the God of Israel, Yahweh. Whenever you see the Lord in all caps, commit yourself to Yahweh. Let him deliver you. Let him rescue you. You know what they said about Jesus when he was on the cross? They said, oh, look, he claimed to know more about God than us. Okay, well then let him come down from this cross. Like they were mocking him. That's what this says. All my bones are out of joint. They pierced my hands and my feet. They pierced my hands and my feet.
So this final clause in verse 16 is notoriously difficult to interpret, and in no small part because it seems like there's some kind of textual corruption that took place somewhere in the transmission of the text. But "they pierced my hands and my feet" is a mistranslation, pure and simple. It is definitely not that. And there are a number of reasons for that. To begin, this verse isn't quoted anywhere in the New Testament, and no one understood this as a reference to the crucifixion until the year 1535, when Miles Coverdale published his revision of Tyndale's translation of the New Testament and as much of the Old Testament as he had translated. And Coverdale rendered pierced in this passage. And this was probably following after Martin Luther's use of a German verb, durchgraben, which means to dig out or to excavate. And this is based on a specific emendation to the text itself, and this is what we find in the Septuagint. But to dig out, to excavate, is not to pierce. And that's absolutely not describing anything remotely associated with the description of Jesus' crucifixion in the New Testament. But that emendation highlights some of the issues with the Hebrew. Because in the Hebrew right now, if we look at the Masoretic text, if we look at our earliest witnesses, we have this word here that is spelled Kaf Aleph Resh Yod, and that means like a lion. And the whole clause in Hebrew is literally like a lion, my hands and my feet. And this could be a null copula. It could be like a lion are my hands and my feet. But a lot of people have trouble making sense of this. And so emendations are made. And one way to amend this is to take out the aleph, so you get Kaf Resh Yod, and then change the Yod to a Vav, Kaf Resh Vav. And that could be this verb in Hebrew that means to dig out or to excavate. And some people restore that reading to a Dead Sea Scroll manuscript, but it is pretty conjectural, and it is also not without its issues. All this is to say that it's definitely not "they pierced my hands and my feet." That is a modern European rereading of this passage that is intended to lean into the imagery of Jesus' crucifixion to make it seem like this is a prophecy that Jesus fulfilled, and it's absolutely nothing of the sort.
I can count on my bones. They look, they stare at me. And this same psalm ends saying, all the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. The Gentiles will worship before you. It will be told of the Lord to the coming generation. That's you, to a people who will be born, that he has performed it. Jesus knew exactly what he was doing when he said this.
More accurately, the gospel authors knew exactly what they were doing.
He cried this out to a Jewish audience, and he's basically saying, finish the psalm.
Or at least that's how the gospel authors, who knew this psalm very well, decided to tell the story.